You are listening to another episode of the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast, the official Bengals podcast of the SB Nation podcast network and the number one Bengals fan podcast out there. I'm Anthony Cosenza, joined as usual by my co-host, John Sheeran. John, how you doing? Busy week this week, but hope you're hanging in there, my friend.
Busy week, busy day, but it's been kind of culminating up to talking to the guy in front of us.
I know. We're sitting here making this about us when, in fact, the show is about the man right in the middle of John and I. If you're watching the live stream video, Mr. Mike Daniels, one of the newest additions to the Cincinnati Bengals, defensive lineman extraordinaire, and I know a lot of fans are excited about him being here. Mike, how you doing? I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, but hope you're doing well and enjoying your new team so far.
Yeah, I'm doing extremely well, and I'm enjoying the team. I'm enjoying the city. I'm really glad to be here. You know what I'm saying? I'm loving it. I'm loving my entire Cincinnati experience right now.
Well, that's great to hear because the Cincinnati Bengals kind of did things a little differently this year in terms of outside free agency. I don't know if you had been made aware as a player about the Bengals' reputation in maybe not diving into outside free agency, but you were one of the most, if not the most high-profile free agent they brought in a wide variety of talented players that they brought in this year. What exactly drew you to the Bengals this year, especially in a year that they seem to kind of be in a transition mode, rebuilding mode, what have you?
I'd say it had to be the details to the process. You know what I'm saying? The details to their interest, I should say. I had an opportunity to speak to all the coaches, Coach Taylor, Coach Lou, and my defensive line coach, Coach Eason. They seem really excited to get me in here, and it really seems like they're moving things in the right direction. You know, Cincinnati has always been an extremely competitive franchise. I've been to 2 Super Bowls in the 80s, so to get back on some competing ground, that's always really good. And I really like Coach Taylor. I really like Coach Taylor.
Mike, I think I speak for my co-host when we do these interviews, we prioritize giving the players a voice, and that's kind of where I wanted to start here. You spent the better part of the last decade living and working in Wisconsin, but the issues that are going on in that state and in Kenosha specifically, they transcend just that area. As an American and as an athlete, do you have anything you want to say about what's going on in Kenosha with the Jacob Blake situation and with the Milwaukee Bucks boycotting the playoff game? Or if not, can you say anything that you've experienced within the Bengals locker room, talking and discussing some of these issues since you've been there?
Yeah, I was saying in general that if you can't, have compassion for another human being, when they're on the receiving end of an act of violence, then, that just says more about the type of person you are. And, we can't ignore the fact that, racism is very real. And a lot of people, they would like to turn a blind eye to it. And there's a lot of people who stand against it. And you're seeing more people being, they're being more courageous in standing up against to things that they always knew were wrong. Like I had a football coach of mine from high school, and he was a gym teacher at my middle school, and I've known him since I was 12. And he sent me a lengthy text after the George Floyd video came out, and he said, Mike, I've really kind of just sat back and I allowed neighbors and even family to say certain things and have certain views, and I can't do that. He said, I work with a lot of black kids, help a lot of black kids get into college, have a lot of black friends, and I have to stand up for what's right. And, more people that take that approach in general, then you'll see the change that needs to be made.
Well said by you, and thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. A lot of things happening this evening as you join us live, as my co-host mentioned. So thanks for sharing some thoughts on that, Mike. Being from the area, at least playing in the area that you played, that my co-host mentioned in Green Bay, you were also in Detroit. You came from the NFC North. You joined the Bengals. There are some similarities between the organizations. Kind of smaller market, especially Green Bay, Cincinnati. Maybe a little bit more family oriented in terms of the ownership group, that sort of thing. Is that is that something that also maybe drew you to the Bengals, just the way that they kind of run the organization, and it was kind of something maybe you were a little comfortable with in terms of culture?
Yeah, and whenever you see loyalty towards the players, you got like, AJ Green, Dunlap, Geno, they've been around a long time. Excuse me. Even with Ocho Cinco and those guys back in the day, Corey Dillon and all the low school guys, you pay attention to that type of stuff. Like, man, these guys are career Bengals, and when an organization shows that type of loyalty to their guys, that only speaks to the higher ups, the ownership, and that's definitely where you want to be. You want to be somewhere where they love their guys, because as you can see, Coach Lewis stuck around a long time, did a lot of great things, always had an extremely tough defense. The defense I admired big time. And now Coach Taylor comes in, and it doesn't shock me that you got two guys that the players love, back to back. And that just speaks to the way the organization is ran.
One of the guys, I'm sorry. Go, please finish.
I was just saying, so absolutely, that definitely played a part in my decision.
One of the guys that you mentioned was Geno Atkins, and I think leading up to the Bengals signing you, I was looking on like Geno's Instagram, and I see you comment on a couple of his posts. Like, I wonder if these guys are friends, and I wonder if there's maybe a connection there. And sure enough, you ended up signing with him. How long has your friendship with Geno go back, and does it go back all the way to your Iowa days when Marshall Yonda came up to you and said, "You got to watch this film on this guy who's wrecking us in the AFC North"?
Yeah, and when Marshall brought that up to me, I instantly started watching him, and then I was a fan first, then I became a student after, because he was so good. My respect for him, was through the roof. So to be able to play next to him, be in the meeting room with him, be in the weight room with him, be in the locker room with him, to learn from him, that's just awesome. I haven't had a chance to be with a defensive lineman that I could really learn from because of their body of work and how they do things, since I played with B.J. Raji back when I was in my first through fourth year in the NFL. So Geno is a guy who I reached out to him, I want to say about 3 years ago, on some, anime comic book type stuff. And him and I definitely have a lot of similarities in that way. And just his path, I respect him. 6 foot tall, 4th rounder. That's where I'm at as well. And I watched how he has overcame so much, and he turned out to be you probably say the best draft pick in his class. So to really watch him, study him, and get to know him as a person, I'm just really excited to be here and playing next to him, man. I reached out to him, and he answered. He doesn't have an ego or anything like that. And he knows a lot of younger D tackles look up to him, and he always makes himself available. I watch how he is with the guys in the locker room. Super cool dude.
Well, you with Geno, DJ Reader, Sam Hubbard, Carlos Dunlap, that is a formidable defensive line, definitely, that the Bengals will be sporting this year. And I know a lot of fans are happy to have you in stripes. We're talking with Mike Daniels, one of the newer acquisitions and high-profile acquisitions that the Cincinnati Bengals made this 2020 offseason. He's joining us courtesy of EAG Management, his representation group. We're thankful that they let him get some of his time this week. Mike, your career has been very, very outstanding, and you made a Pro Bowl in 2017. You've been to and played in a lot of postseason games with the Packers. There's one thing, though, and I want to ask you about this, and don't get me wrong, we're going to ask you about that anime thing in just a minute, too. But
okay.
The one thing that sticks out to me when I look at all your stats, and they're all impressive, 1 touchdown as a rookie. It looks like it was off a fumble recovery. I want to ask you this. Do you remember what your touchdown celebration was when you scored that touchdown? And if you were to get a touchdown return this year, be it interception, fumble, etc., with the Bengals this year, do you have any idea as to what kind of celebration you'd be showing us if you got to the end zone this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been cooking this one up for a few years now, ever since that touchdown back in 2012. But I remember my celebration ran 43 yards and scored. So I kind of just put the ball up in the air, and I was excited. Then I, made sure I crossed the line, and then I let the ball drop, and I went to attempt a Lambeau leap. I got halfway up there, but that wall, come to find out, is the higher wall. The other wall that you see the guys kind of just jumping, spinning on top of it. That's a shorter wall. So I got the short end of the stick on that one. No pun intended. If I were to score a touchdown this year with the Bengals, you mentioned anime. We definitely have a lot of anime fans, particularly on the defensive line. So we'll I don't want to reveal it, but
you don't have to.
It'll be something Dragon Ball related.
Okay.
And it's going to look phenomenal, and we're going to break the internet.
I love it.
I think I know exactly what he's talking about, but I'm not going to say it to the audience. In your time in Green Bay, you spent a lot of time in that Dom Capers defense, where it was a lot of odd front looks, and you were playing a lot of 5 technique and also 3 technique, which is kind of where your career took off. What was the role that I think the Bengals, pitched to you in terms of coming on, and has that role, changed with all the injuries that have happened with guys like Rennell Wren and Ryan Glasgow? Has anything changed with you since you came to Cincinnati, and what type of role do you foresee yourself having in this defense?
I'm extremely flexible, and that's how I've always been. Coach Capers, Coach Pettin, Coach Patricia, they line me up all over the place, from the 5 all the way down to the 0 to the other 5, and I'm here to do whatever they ask me to do, dropping the coverage, whatever they need me to do. That's what I'm here to do. I want to help this team win. I want to make everybody else around me better. And I just want to overall be the best teammate that I can possibly be. And the only way to do that is by being selfless and doing what's asked of you. So I'm for it.
Well, I'm gonna share something here for you, Mike, and for those who are joining us live and or watching the show after the fact. You have a very interesting way to kind of keep in shape in off days.
Yep.
Here's one from your Twitter account. The cupping that is kind of a newer fad in terms of recovery for athletes. And then you've got another here that I want to share, which is pretty interesting. It is you, I believe this was a recent day off, working in, I don't know if it's a cold tub or a hot tub, doing some lineman drills, it looks like, while doing there. So no days off. Days off is not a day off for you. I guess talk about the respective differences in these practices and really how it helps keep your body, especially a handful of years now into the league, how it helps you keep refreshed and ready to go in the dog days of training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cupping and the acupuncture more so is energetic, helps your muscles let go of unnecessary tone and tension. Then I'll get into the cupping, which is funny. I remember when I saw, I think, what Olympics were those? I forget. Where Michael Phelps, everybody was making a big deal about, the massive bruises he had on his back from cupping. And I'd already been doing it for a few years before then. So it's something that's been around for a long time. I got familiar with it in my second year in the NFL, and that definitely helps let the muscles relax even more. And, it helps pull like some of the toxins out. It helps with the fascia and letting it all loosen up and everything like that. So the cupping has been really good. I'll do a little bit laser that helps heal at a cellular level while I have the muscle and the skin raised. So that's awesome. And then the pull, that's more of me just – we all know the pull is resistance, right?
Right.
And the more resistance you get, the better you feel. And getting that pull, working my defensive line, hand work, my football stance, coming out of my stance, it'll just translate into the field with me being more explosive, me being looser, me having overall better flexibility. And that's what's extremely important. The more mobile and flexible you are, the longer you last, and the more effective you'll be, the longer you play this game.
Well, it's not very normal for a defensive lineman to last 9 years in the NFL and also play at a high level. But would you say that your training methodology has has kind of changed in recent years, just because you're reaching up there in terms of years played, and also because of some of the injury issues that you've ran into the past couple of years?
You have to monitor, your what you do when you're working, and I've been blessed that the injuries I had were more freak accident type things, not soft tissue or like they were just freak accidents, really. So I can continue training at the volume that I used to with the intensity that I did back when I was in college. I can maintain that because of what you just showed, my recovery tools that I have, whether it's cupping, lasering, chiropractic work, acupuncture, and then the pool work which actually doubles as a workout and a recovery. So I will say that the recovery aspect of it definitely increases the longer you play. But that's something I've always taken seriously because I knew the day will come where I'll be year 9, thank God. Or I was hoping the day would come on year 9. And I knew the day will come. I knew the day will come where I would have to recover from an injury. Now I'm recovering from 2, fully recovered. But I'm glad I've built up such good work habits with my recovery that I'm able to bounce back in the way I did.
Talking with Mike Daniels, one of the newest acquisitions for the Cincinnati Bengals. He joins us courtesy of EAG Management. Hopefully you've got a few more minutes with us, Mike. We want to get to know you. We've got to know the football player quite a bit here, and we know your resume coming into Cincinnati. It's quite impressive. You teased a little bit that your personal interests bleed into football as well with the anime and the touchdown celebration. I understand you're a big Dragon Ball fan. I've seen some other features done by other networks about your passion for anime, comics, that sort of thing. So I guess for fans to get to know you a little bit, talk about kind of how you got into that area. And is it only the anime sphere that you're interested in? Does it also bleed into the Marvel, DC, and the big films that we've seen over the past handful of years? Talk about you being kind of an anime comic book nut, if you will.
So I am I'm a huge anime fan. I have been since '98. Starting with my sister watching Sailor Moon. She's older than me. Watched Sailor Moon and then Pokemon and then Dragon Ball, and then it just came tumbling down, man, like dominoes, one after the other. But I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge manga fan. The manga is the comic book version of the anime, and a lot of times anime are based off the manga. So I'm a huge fan of that, and absolutely, I am a DC and Marvel fan. I am not as well versed.
Which do you prefer?
Who I prefer? That's a tough one. Depends on what you're asking. If we're talking about the DC, if we're talking about the animated universe, like the animated movies and the cartoons, then DC hands down.
Yeah.
DC hands down. There's no competition. Their movies are their cartoon movies are phenomenal. DC animated universe they're killing the game right now. Everybody knows it. And it goes back to Batman the Animated Series. You're not going to find a better cartoon than that ever. Period. See what I'm saying? Marvel, definitely they got them edged out in the box office smash with the movies and everything. We know that. That's not even a competition. So, that's God's way of balancing out the universe, right? that's how I look at it.
I feel like this question is like 15 years old, but I still need to ask it. Who wins in the fight, Goku or Superman?
It depends on what Superman we're talking about. Depends on what Goku we're talking about, right?
Super Saiyan.
So here's where Goku will have the edge. Goku's an actual martial artist. So Goku always gets stronger. Superman kind of has his limit. And then he gets, kryptonite reminds him of his home planet, and he gets weak. We know that. Goku doesn't have weaknesses other than that he's extremely naive. He's not stupid. He's naive. People get that misconception. So I'd have to hard one. I'd have to give it to my boy Goku, because Goku will lose, but he'll eventually get himself up. If Goku loses, he'll eventually work himself up to being able to win, because he's always getting better.
Getting educated by Mike Daniels. I love it. Mike, I got to ask, what do you have a prized piece of comic book memorabilia or anime memorabilia? And if so, do you ever see that springboarding yourself after your NFL career is done? Do you ever see yourself opening some sort of comic book memorabilia collectibles type of store? I've seen some of these videos that you've been in where you've kind of worked with kids inside of a comic book store. My mind kind of went there. I'm like, I wonder if he ever has aspirations to own something like that one day.
So that definitely, I'm a big comic book store kind of guy. As far as me owning one, I will not rule it out. I will not. I have a bunch of stuff, man. That's like people would pay top dollar for because it's so rare, because it comes from like a certain time period. I have Dragon Ball Z fan dubs on VHS.
Wow.
There's no way you're going to find that nowadays.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
People pay top dollar for that. The quality is not good, but because of what it is, right? So I definitely have a lot of collectibles, and I would not rule out me opening up a memorabilia store, more so just to be able to connect with fellow comic book and anime fans, more so.
Well, I also understand, we've talked football, we've talked about your passion for anime and comic books. I also understand that you have a beautiful family. I think you have a child on the way as well. You're fifth? Is that what it is? Okay. Just tell us a little bit about your family. I mean, obviously that is of utmost importance above everything else we've talked about. And congratulations on the newest addition coming to your family.
So, after serving my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, God, my family, they're everything to me, man. When you get those dog days of camp and your legs feel like cinder blocks, just think about my wife and my kids and why I do this, man. It ain't for my personal glory. It's for me to be able to show my family that Dad works very hard, and he works very hard for you guys, and he's setting the standard for greatness. Now, I could have had any profession, but that's just the approach I take with it because of how I love my family. I want to give them something to be proud of, that our dad gets up and works his tail off. And that's just the standard. And my wife, she's my everything, man. My better half. She is my best friend. I made a lot of good friends in college when I went to Iowa, but I met my best friend in my wife. And she is like, I have a bad day, I'm calling her. I'm having a great day, I'm calling her. Something crazy happens, I'm calling her. I need advice on something, I'm calling her. I talk to her before I talk to anybody. Even before sometimes I may talk to my coach, I say, babe, what do you see right here? Like, what do you see? Now, clearly she can't coach me in the same way that my coach can, but she knows me. There's been times in the games where she looks and she says, wow, you didn't look like yourself. Like, what are you talking about? I felt great. No, you didn't like yourself. What was on your mind? I'll go back and watch the film. I'll reassess myself. Then I'll look and say, oh, my gosh, I did have something on my mind. I'm seeing what she's seeing now. Whoa, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
definitely my best friend, and then my kids, they're always watching. So I have to make sure I'm the best me that I can be at all times, and I love living like that. I really do.
You get any of those kids into the comic book sickness yet? They immersed into the
yeah, they are, man. I'm always catching them watching because I watch a lot of anime in Japanese subtitle, right? So I always catch them watching their shows on Netflix, which has a lot of foreign shows, not just from Japan, but like from France, Spain, and Portugal, whatever. And they'll be watching it in the show's native language, right, with English subtitles. And I say, guys, you way to be cultured, way to be cultured, right? You don't even realize how much you're learning, how much you're being able to comprehend and understand, because you're taking yourself out of your own comfort zone, and that's always good.
Has that passion taught you Japanese? Like, do you know the Japanese language from watching so much anime or reading manga?
At one point, I did. I had taken a small hiatus, so I lost a lot of my knowledge, right? But I did know a few words, and at one point I was going to get I had a friend of mine who actually minored in speaking Japanese, and he took Japan and everything, right? So, once he did that, I kind of said, I give up. I don't know any. I'm not even going to mess with you. So, yeah, man. At one point I did, but I did get a Rosetta Stone to learn Japanese. I have to activate it so that I can.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to get you out of here, Mike. I asked probably for about 10 or 15 minutes, and you've given us close to 30, man. So sorry we've chatted your ear off, but this has been incredibly enjoyable.
Man, it's okay.
John and I have spoken to Dhani Jones on this program before, and we jokingly called him the most interesting man in the world. You, my friend, might have taken that throne from him. You are an excellent interview and a great guest. We appreciate you coming on. Is there any charity or side business? I know you're working on that comic book store in the future, but is there anything else that we can help you promote before you get on out of here?
Yeah, New Souls Inc. So new, then Souls, like the bottom of a sneaker, Incorporated. They're a non-profit organization based out of Camden, New Jersey, or Pensacola, New Jersey. And the cities are like right close to each other like that, right? And what they do is that they provide shoes and clothing and at times food for families that are in need. I know they will go and drop gifts off to kids, underprivileged children during Christmas time, and they just recently had a ice cream truck just right there, and just was giving out free ice cream to everybody in the neighborhood and stuff. So they're doing some really good things. You can follow them on Instagram at New Souls Inc. Sorry, I have no idea what's going on.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, right. Yep. At New Souls Inc.
Very cool.
And they're doing an amazing job. I'm from New Jersey. I'm from South Jersey. My father's from the city, and I really just love to see people doing the right thing and paying it forward. They've been blessed, be a blessing on the others. So I respect what they do. They're going to be my calls, my cleats this year, and definitely involved.
That's awesome. Well, we will put that link in the live chats for both Facebook and YouTube viewers, as well as in a write-up we're going to do, Mike. We're going to put this interview on the front page of CincyJungle.com so that all Bengals fans can get to know you. They can watch this interview, listen to this interview, and read about some of the many interests and your beautiful family, all kinds of great things. I know great things are ahead for you for the Cincinnati Bengals this year. A welcome addition. Thanks for joining us on this program, and stay healthy. Be well this year, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to coming back.
Absolutely.
All right. We'd love to have you back on.
Thanks. Have a good one, guys.
All right, you too. This has been the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. Our thanks to Mike Daniels for joining us and EAG Management. For John Sheeran, I'm Anthony Cosenza. We'll see you next episode.